Hey guys, Matt aka Martin here, and welcome to episode 4 of Making Music in Ableton Live. Today I'm going to be taking you through a brief overview of Arrangement View. So, let's jump right in. Okay, so again I have a blank Ableton Live session open up here, and this is what roughly you will see when you open up Ableton Live. So in today's episode, like I said, what we're going to do is cover Arrangement View. So you can get to Arrangement View one of two ways. Up here in the top right hand corner of the screen, you can see that little, what my cursor is hovering over. If you click that, that will take you, switch this window to Arrangement View. Another way you can do it is if you hit Tab, and that will switch the main middle window in between Session and Arrangement Views. So we're going to go into Arrangement View. Now, the first thing you'll notice with Arrangement View is that it basically looks like a session view turned on its side. So down here on the right hand side of the window, we have the track names, which correspond to the same track names that are here up the top left in session view. So you can access the track names just here by clicking there and then doing all the rename stuff that I went through in the previous episode. You've also got the same controls here, such as the in-out controls, the volume, mute buttons, the solo and arm buttons, as well as the volume and MIDI level indicators to the far right here. On channels that can send and receive audio, you'll also have the track volume accessible just here, as well as the pan controls and the send controls. You can also access the track delay from the arrangement view by clicking on the D down the bottom. One thing that's a little bit unique to Arrangement View is this, as you can see next to the track names, we have these little arrows. Now what these arrows do is fold and unfold the tracks. So if I click on the arrow for the first MIDI channel, you'll see that it collapses the track down so you can just see its name and the track mute, solo, and arm controls there. And you can also do this for each and every one of them and click the same button to unfold it. Now a cool little trick that you can do is if you hold Alt and click on one of the fold arrows, it will fold or unfold every single channel that you have available to you. So one of the next things you'll notice about Arrangement View is that it has these numbers across the top here. Now what these correspond to are the bar numbers of the session that you have open. So you can see up here I've got bar 1, bar 5, bar 9, bar 13, bar 17, and this is split up so that it has even divisions across each zoom range, which I'll go into in a second. Down the bottom, you also have the same kind of ruler format, but instead of it being beats and bars, this time it is in actual time. Now this will change depending on the tempo of the track, but the bar numbers up the top will not. The next thing you'll notice is that by clicking around Arrangement View, wherever I click, there's this little playhead or this highlighted part here. You'll see if I zoom in, it's kind of this flashing highlighted part with a little arrow up the top. Now that corresponds to where I have selected in the arrangement view, and wherever I click and when I press the play button, it will play, or space, it will play from wherever I have clicked, which is really useful for starting tracks at specific points. One thing you can also do in arrangement view is select specific regions. So if I click and hold and drag, you can see that the whole region that I'm selecting is highlighted in yellow, and then I can let go, and then I have this entire region selected so that I can duplicate it, copy it, paste it, delete it, whatever. The next thing you'll notice is that we have this grid here, and whenever I click, it snaps to this grid value. Now the grid value is actually changeable in a variety of ways. So one way you can do it is you can right click, and you'll see here that it comes up with a variety of different grid options. We have what's known as adaptive grid options, which basically means that the grid will adapt to a different size depending on how far you're zoomed into or out of the window. Next, you have the fixed grid options, which regardless of how far you are zoomed in, the grid will always be on this value. Now it's worth noting that on some of the smaller values, depending on how far you're zoomed out, the grid shown will actually be on a higher value. So if I click on 1/32, for example, and I zoom back out, you can see that what's shown here on the grid are actually 16th notes, but the playhead is snapping to 30-second notes. Now, what if I wanted to zoom in and see the 30-second notes? Well, Ableton has a bit of a unique way of zooming in. So if you move your mouse up to the top here, you can see at first it changes into this kind of speaker icon. If you move it up a little bit further, it'll change into a magnifying glass icon. Now, if you click and hold and then drag up or down, it will zoom out or in, depending on which way you drag. So if I zoom in here by clicking and holding and dragging down, you'll see that the grid adjusts its size so that I can see the 30-second note divisions. If you're zoomed in like this, there are a few different ways that you can scroll across. You can either click and drag along the top here, left and right, or you can, if you have a trackpad or a sideways scrollable mouse, you can just scroll from side to side. Another way you can zoom in and out is up here at the very, very top of the window, you have what's known as the track overview. So using this, you can zoom in and out of the session in specific points. So say I wanted to zoom in all the way right over here, I can click and hold down on the little bar up here, click and hold down, and it will zoom in to that spot. Now you can also navigate forwards and back in time in the session by clicking in different spots on this overview. Now there's some really cool key shortcuts for changing the grid size. So you can either change the grid size by, like I said before, using the right click menu and changing to any of the adaptive grids or fixed grids, and I highly recommend you experiment with them to discover which you like best. But the way I like to change my grid size is by using Command 1 and Command 2. So if you press Command and 2, what that will do is increase the grid size that's shown. So you can see here, I can take it all the way up to 64 bars, 128 bars, 256 bars, 512 bars, and the grid size is shown down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the arrangement view window. Now I can also do the opposite. I can decrease the grid size by pressing Command and 1. And this is really useful when you really quickly want to change grid size between various different values. The next thing I want to go over is the loop brace. So up here, where my mouse is hovering over at the moment, that thing is what's known as the loop brace. Now there are a few different ways you can set this. You can manually set it by moving your cursor to the side until it becomes this square bracket, and then you can click and drag either in or out to change that side of it, and then change the other side of it by doing the same thing. You can click in the middle of it and click and drag, and this will drag the entire loop brace around. Or you can select a region of the arrangement view like I was doing before, and then hit Command and L, and that will set the loop brace there, and it will also turn on the loop function so that whatever you have playing here, it will loop back between the start and end point of the loop brace. To turn the loop function off again, you can hit the loop switch button up in the top. Now it's worth noting that the start and end of the loop brace also mark the punch in and punch out points. Now this is useful when it comes to recording, which I'll get into in a later video. If you want to adjust the loop brace by typing in values, you can also do that. So up here in the top, you can see these numbers. What the first set of 3 numbers corresponds to is the beginning of the loop brace. So if I type in, say for example, 1 here, that will take the very beginning of the loop brace to the start of the arrangement view timeline. And what the second set of 3 numbers corresponds to here is the length of the loop brace. So you can type in a value manually, say I want to loop 4 bars, and that will change the loop brace length to 4 bars. And then you can also move this around and change each number individually by clicking and dragging up and down on that number. Another cool thing you can do with the arrangement view window is set what's known as locators. Now this can be done in a few different ways. So over here in the top right hand corner, just above the track names, you'll see this little button that says set. Now what this will do is set what's known as a locator wherever your playhead is currently at within the arrangement view. So you see I clicked that set button and then a locator popped up here named locator 1. I can easily get rid of this by clicking where this locator is and hitting the delete button where that set button is at, or I can right click on the locator and press delete. You can also rename locators in the exact same way that you can rename tracks and other things within Ableton Live. So you can right click and go rename, or select the locator and hit Command and R. You can also play the arrangement from any position within the arrangement view timeline by hovering your cursor over this top little bar just up here where the loop brace is located so that it turns into this speaker icon, and then clicking. There are also more functions that are available within Arrangement View, but for now, this has just been a brief overview so that you can know what to expect when we dive right into actually making some sounds, which will be in the next video. That's it for this video. I hope you found it useful and got some good tips and tricks out of it. In the next video, we're going to start actually getting some sound out of the program when I go through the basics of working with audio within Ableton Live. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you really enjoy my content, consider heading over to Patreon and supporting me on there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. My name is Martin, and I'll see you in the next video.